www.offthecorner.net. You're watching the F.A.C.T Project, and F.A.C.T, of course, is an acronym that stands for Fundamental African-Centered Thought. The goal here on the F.A.C.T Project is to convey some thoughts and some information to members of our community. Today, we are doing the History of Conscious Rap Part 3. I did Part 1 and 2 here on the DJ Tiger channel. Shout out to DJ Tiger. Shout out to Bot Ricks in the chat. I did the History of Conscious Rap Part 1 to exemplify the fact that rap music was not always what we see it as today. Most people today, especially people that don't listen to rap music, see it as a negative because it glorifies drug use, alcohol abuse. It over-glorifies materialism. It's misogynistic towards women. It definitely portrays Black people in a very negative, stereotypical light. And the great Dr. James McIntosh, he corrected me because I was on his radio show here in New York City. I quoted him last time as saying that media impacts the way people think and impacts people's behavior. And we know that because the corporations, they pay millions of dollars for a 30-second ad during Super Bowl because they know that media affects the way people think and people's behavior. So the media that we consume is very important. And I think it's very important for us to give the history of rap music, especially conscious rap music, on record. Because if we don't do it, that history might go away. And years from now, rap music will be remembered as this negative thing that Black people did once upon a time, and it had no redeeming message and no redeeming quality to it, no socially relevant message. And I know that that's not true. I started the History of Conscious Rap Part 1 talking about the Watts Prophets and the Last Poets and some of these guys that were doing rap music before it was called rap or before it was called hip hop, because rap was a term that was already being used as far back as 1971, perhaps. Watts Prophets did an album called Rappin' Black. And they were doing their kind of spoken word, rhythmic talking to music. This is before August 11th, 1973, which by most accounts is the birth date of hip hop. Of course, we know Rapper's Delight was the first. Well, it wasn't the first rap record, but King Tim III and the Fatback Band did a record called Personality Jock, which was the first rap record as we, rap as we know it. Of course, later that year, Sugar Hill Gang did Rapper's Delight, and Rap Takes Off is the next big thing. That was 1979. 1980, Brother D does a record called How We Gonna Make the Black Nation Rise. And I played this in Part 1. History of Conscious Rap Part 1. You could go to offthecorner.net if you want to see the History of Conscious Rap Part 1. That website, again, is offthecorner.net. And I'm going to post the History of Conscious Rap Part 2 soon, as well as this particular installment, the History of Conscious Rap Part 3. But Brother D does How We're Going to Make the Black Nation Rise in 1980. So Rap on Record is really just a couple months old at this point. And already we're seeing consciousness in the music. They're talking about Marcus Garvey. They're talking about self-determination and self-sufficiency and so forth. Of course, probably the biggest message rap record at the time was The Message. This is what put what we call back then message rap on the map. It really didn't have a name until Grandmaster Flash and Furious 5 did The Message. Brother D's record was before that, so Grandmaster Flash and Furious 5 do The Message. And of course, that becomes a huge hit record. And in rap music at the time, and this speaks to what the culture was at the time, in rap music at the time, if you wanted to make a hit, if you had an opportunity to make a record or put record out on vinyl, you basically did a conscious rap record because that was the zeitgeist, or what they say, the spirit of the time, was that kind of consciousness in the music. I gave a lot of examples of that in a movie called Wild Style, which was filmed in 1981, later part of 81 going into 82. You have Grand Wizard Theodore and the Fantastic versus the Cold Crush Brothers live at the Dixie. And at the end of their set, at the end of their routine, Grand was at Theodore and the Fantastic. They're doing this call and response thing with the audience. And they were saying, say I'm proud, to be black and black power and so forth. And so this racial pride was there. It was already in the music. This is 1982. And, they're already doing this call and response thing saying, I'm black and I'm beautiful and I'm proud to be black and so forth and so on. The Treacherous 3, not too long after that, did a record called Yes We Can, and I played that in History of Conscious Rap Part 1. I recommend everybody go back and watch that. They talked about, the one line that stands out for me the most is where they said that the presidency has a lot to do with our country's wealth. It's nothing new. It's history's way of repeating itself. So rap music was being made to try to inform people, inform the community, talking about some of the challenges that we faced as a race of people in the system of structural racism, which is based on the myth of white supremacy. We didn't know it as that back then. We just called it, we living in hard times. And so this was a commentary about the system of structural racism. We didn't know it then, but we understand it all now. But the music was trying to convey some of those ideas. Then I played a record called Can't Stop Until We Reach the Top by the Dynamite 2. Pretty much an underground record. It was somewhat of a hit on the weekend here in New York City, where we got rap on radio for a few hours on the weekend only. There was no such thing as commercial rap at the time. So if you wanted to hear rap music, you had to stick it out to the weekend, and so in some instances stay up late so that you can record and tape your rap music. And then I played What Are We Gonna Do About It, a record by the Ultimate 3. Another record that was talking a lot about social commentary and socially relevant things that were going on in the black community, especially in the urban black community and what we refer to as the ghetto. And in History of Conscious Rap Part 2, I played a lot more of those records, but I was going now more into the mid 80s. I think I probably ended off at 86 with Eric B. and Rakim, My Melody. Now, My Melody by itself was not a conscious rap record, but Rakim did say, I'm letting knowledge be born and my name's the R. So putting some of that 5% Nation of Gods and Earth lessons in the music and actually introducing it to the culture on a bigger scale. And so that's where I ended the last time. I had Brother Ajay Taimba, and I also had Brother Eric J, two old school hip hop guys that were able to speak at length about some of the music that we were playing and some of what was going on at the time. I remember playing Divine Sounds, What People Do for Money. That's another one. You can check all of those records out on the History of Conscious Rap Part 1, as well as the History of Conscious Rap Part 2. And shout out to DJ Tiger. Maybe we can convince DJ Tiger to do a mix of all of these conscious rap records. I don't know what we would call that. Can't call it Black Power Mixtape because there's already something called the Black Power Mixtape. But in 1987, Public Enemy puts their first album out. Now, Public Enemy's first album was recorded in 1985. Now, Rick Rubin, who signed Public Enemy, for whatever reason, decided to shelf that album. And shelf the album means the album is recorded, but they didn't put the album up. So the album is kind of just there sitting, right? And so it didn't get the when it finally did come out in 1987. Remember, this is recorded almost 2 years previous. By 87, you already had Eric B. and Rakim on the scene. And Eric B. and Rakim is, they've become the thing to listen to, right? The rap music changed directions. When we heard Rakim say, I came in the door, I said it before. That was a totally different style of rap. And there were a few records in the history of recorded rap music, and perhaps I need to go and do a whole nother show on this. But there were a few records that caused and helped to facilitate the direction that rap music went in. Eric B. and Rakim, Eric B. for President and My Melody was one of those records. Prior to that, you had Run DMC, the Sucker MCs, which was the B-side of It's Like That, and That's the Way It Is. Again, Run DMC, in order to make a hit on their first record, they did a conscious rap record. And Sucker MCs was on the B side of that. Now, Sucker MCs was unique in that the drums were really big. There was no hi-hat. There was no music. You knew the moment you heard that rap was going to completely go in another direction. This happened again in 1985 when Dougie Fresh and Slick Rick did The Show, produced by Teddy Riley. That was so different that was another turning point in rap. So you had 85, Dougie Fresh and Slick Rick did The Show. 86, Eric B. and Rakim come out with Eric B. for President. 87, Public Enemy now puts out their first album, which was recorded 2 years previous. So Public Enemy's first album didn't do well at all. In fact, I can remember seeing Public Enemy, I believe it was at Madison Square Garden. They were performing songs from their first album. The audience response was lukewarm at best. The audience was not really feeling Public Enemy. So, and it's partly because Public Enemy, when they put the first album out, it's an old album at that point. So now you have Eric B. and Rakim. I know you got Soul and some of these other records where they're looping and sampling breakbeats. So Public Enemy's Bomb Squad, who was the production team at the time, they said, okay, if people want, and Cool G Rap and Polo did this a demo, and that sampled James Brown, Funky Drummer, which probably became one of the most sampled breakbeats in all of hip hop. So Bomb Squad said, okay, if that's the direction rap is going in, then we're going to sample and use breakbeats. And that's exactly what they started to do. So I think the single was You're Gonna Get Yours. They put out a record called Rebel Without a Pause. Now, the first album did so bad that Rick Rubin was actually considering dropping Public Enemy from the label. So the second album, it was do or die. Like, this had to be the album that sold and got attention and had the impact that they wanted to have. So on Rebel Without a Pause now, not only did they sample James Brown, Funky Drummer, and they're starting to use breakbeats, but now they did something in rap that really wasn't done before they did it, in the way that they did it. Now, you got to remember, Bomb Squad is certain things that happen in rap music that change the direction. Bomb Squad was one of those things that happened in rap that changed the direction of rap music because their production style was so different. It was so out the box. And when it finally did catch on and people got it, then a lot of people started doing Bomb Squad inspired production. So now one of the first things they did to get your attention when the record began, they started using little voice samples. Now, Rebel Without a Pause, like I said, was a B-side to a single off the first album. Now they're trying to gain some traction and make up for some lost ground. So now they put out Rebel Without a Pause, and it begins with a voice sample of Jesse Jackson. And this is from Watt Stacks. For people that know what Watt Stacks is, this comes from Watt Stacks. So hopefully I share my screen properly. And this is where they get the beginning of the record from Watt Stacks.
Brothers and sisters, brothers and sisters, I don't know what this world is coming to. The soul children. Okay,
so obviously you see there where Public Enemy gets the brothers and sisters. I don't know where this world is, what this world is coming to, part of the Rebel Without a Pause record. And this was the beginning of them doing that sort of thing on record, using voice samples and excerpts from speeches and so forth and so on. So now they put out Rebel Without a Pause, which was the B-side to a single from the first album, which did not do well. So now this is Public Enemy trying to make up some lost ground here and trying to basically catch up to what was going on in rap at the time, and basically make a hit record so that they can jumpstart their career. And this was it right here. In fact, this is the very record that sparks what we know as the Black consciousness era in hip hop music. 1987, this was the record right here that sparked it all. And so, okay, I just played that beginning part. Let's see if we can play that and hear how it was used on the record. Listen.
Brothers and sisters, brothers and sisters, I don't know what this world is coming to.
Yes, the rhythm's a rebel. Without a pause, I'm lowering my level.
Okay, so now I want to play that because you're hearing a sample of a very loud pitched trumpet. That comes from James Brown. No, it was James Brown's band called the JBs. That's from a record called The Grunt. So let me see, where am I? Yeah, that's from a record called The Grunt. Let's see. Yeah, here we go. I got that. So let me see if I can pull this up. I'm doing this on the fly. Shout out to DJ Tiger. He's real swift with this sort of thing. I'm trying to learn. So this is from Public Enemy now. They're doing. Wait a minute. I just lost where I was. Here we go. The Grunt. They're putting this record out now to basically save their career. Because Rick Rubin is looking at them sideways saying, look, y'all ain't selling records. We might have to go ahead and let you go. Public Enemy said, no, wait a minute. We got something for you. And so now they do Rebel Without a Pause. And you hear the high-pitched horn that was looped throughout the entire record. It comes from the JBs, The Grunt. Listen. Okay, now they just sample that first piece, as you can hear. And yeah, that basically is the one thing that helped to take their career to the next step. Now, I went off of what I was doing here. I was trying to play a portion of Rebel Without a Pause. So we got Public Enemy basically in the midst of saving their career by trying to do something they know is going to sell and get attention only if it catches on. And they did something that was so out the box that not only did it save their career, but it helped steer rap music in a whole nother direction. And I just had what I had here and I went off of it by accident. So here we go. Just stay with me. This is Public Enemy, Rebel Without a Pause. Now, for the people that kind of see rap as this negative thing because it's become that now, especially commercial rap, it's become this negative thing. I want people to really listen to and understand the sort of themes that we were playing and listening to in our music. This is Public Enemy, and forgive me for taking a long time here. I had this set up, but I just made a mistake, so I'm trying to catch up here. Here we go. This is it. Now, they were saying some things that were decidedly different, which is with their goal, because the whole theme of Public Enemy was to basically get attention and be different and still convey their message the way they wanted to. So here we go. Public Enemy, Rebel Without a Pause. So everybody listen to this.
On the hour from the rebel to you. Hey, yo, Chuck, man, I don't understand this, man. Yo, you got to slow down, man. You're losing them. Radio suckers never play me. On the mix, they just don't play me now. No.
Now he says, radio suckers never play me. So the problem with Public Enemy on the first album, Chuck D his message was there on the first album, but it was very cryptic. If you did not hear Chuck D explain that, then you probably wouldn't get it. Either way, Black Radio was not playing Public Enemy. So now this is a single from the first album, a B-side song. He said, radio suckers never play me. On the mix, they just okay me. Meaning on the mix shows on the weekend that I mentioned, Public Enemy was played only on the mix shows on the weekend, and they didn't even get a lot of rotation then. So that was their taking a swipe at the radio for not supporting them. Remember what I said, when I saw them perform, the audience was not really feeling Public Enemy. Most people were not into it. Listen.
When they're clocking my soul, there's no sneaking and taking everything now the brother owns. My calling card, recorded and ordered, supporter of Chesimard, loud and proud.
He said, supporter of Chesimard. Now, I'm 15 years old and I'm hearing this for the first time. I don't know what that means. I understand it all now. When he says Chesimard, he's talking about Joanne Chesimard, who is affectionately known as Assata Shakur. Assata Shakur was a member of the Black Liberation Movement. She was also involved with the Black Panther Party. Assata Shakur was falsely accused of killing a state trooper on the New Jersey Turnpike in an incident that occurred in 1973. She was convicted of murder, wrongfully convicted of murder in 1977, and Assata Shakur successfully escaped from prison in 1979. You heard what I said right. She escaped from prison in 1979 and made her way to Cuba. And she lives in Cuba to this day in exile. So when Public Enemy says, loud and proud supporter of Chesimard, we're talking some serious stuff. This is no throw your hands in the air, wave them like you just don't care rap. This is some serious stuff. So now that's 1987, and that record successfully put Public Enemy on the map because they were having some trouble getting off the ground on the first album, only because the first album was late. The record label decided they're going to put this album out 2 years later, and when they did, it did not have the impact that they wanted it to have. So Public Enemy is now hot. And so Public Enemy is I never knew that. Okay, so shout out to Henry Cedillo saying that he didn't know some of what Public Enemy was talking about in their music early on. So let's see if I can go to the next step in the history of conscious rap music here. Now we're talking 1987. And they do a record called Bring the Noise, which was on the soundtrack to a movie called Less Than Zero. And again, this is them now beginning to promote the forthcoming album, which was It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back. And like I said, Rebel Without a Pause is the record that basically helped to jumpstart the Black consciousness and hip hop movement, which I'm talking about this because I feel the Black consciousness and hip hop movement should be something that's talked about the way we talk about the Black arts movement, the Harlem Renaissance. This was another movement among us as African people in America. And I think it's noteworthy. It needs to be discussed, especially now that commercial rap has become what commercial rap has become. So here we go again. They're using the voice now. First, they used the Jesse Jackson voice, right, on the Rebel Without a Pause. Now they're going into using the voice of Malcolm X. And this is the beginning. This is what they use for the beginning of Bring the Noise. You got to listen closely.
It's just like when you got some coffee that's too black, which means it's too strong. What you do, you integrate it with cream.
And now he said, it's just like when you have some coffee that's too black, which means it's too strong. And we see a lot of that today. He said, when you add cream to coffee, if you add too much cream to coffee, what was supposed to wake you up is going to put you to sleep. We see that today in our movements now. When we try to have a movement to focus on Black issues and the Black agenda, it seems we always have to mix our issues. It can't just be Black issues and we're campaigning for Black people only. That has to be mixed with LBGT. That has to be mixed with some white socialism, some kind of white feminism. We always got to add cream to the coffee because we can't just advocate on behalf of ourselves only. And this is the mainstream media doing this. We have to water down our message and add some cream to the coffee so that it's not too Black and too strong. You see a lot of movements. You see veterans' rights groups. They campaign for veterans' rights, whatever the veterans are campaigning for, right? You never see the veterans' rights groups mixing their agenda with the feminist agenda. It just doesn't happen. You had Millions Moms More movement and the Million Moms March and so forth. The moms movement never mixed their agenda with the immigration reform agenda. So it seems like if we try to do something just for Black people only, that's a problem. So now you got to mix it with LBGT or mix it with some feminism or some kind of white socialism, adding cream to the coffee. Because if you don't, to the mainstream media, now the coffee is too black, which means it's too strong. And so this is Public Enemy, 1987. And they do a record called Bring the Noise. And they use that voice sample from Malcolm X that we just heard, where he talks about too black, too strong. And Public Enemy was saying at the time they felt as if their music was too black for the mainstream media, for the radio. The radio didn't support them the way they should have. And so they said it was because their music was too black, which means it's too strong. Taking that quote from the great Omawali Malcolm X. Now, here we go. Forgive me, I'm doing this on the fly. Let me see here. Okay, here you go. Here you go. I got it now. Here we go. It says Public Enemy, Bring the Noise. And let me make sure I share my screen properly. All of this is being done on the fly, people. This is live. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Voice from Malcolm X. You got to listen closer.
Too strong. Too black. Too strong.
Yo, Chuck, these honey drippers are still front on us. Show them that we can do this, because we always do this. Yeah, boy.
Now you see where they used too black, too strong from the Malcolm X speech. And they were saying that their music was just that. It was too black, which meant it was too strong. Listen.
Now they got me in the cell because my records they sell. Because a brother like me said, well, Farrakhan's a prophet and I think you want to listen to what he can say to you.
He said Farrakhan's a prophet and I think you ought to listen to what he could say to you. That's risky to say on record now. He was saying that back in 1987. Listen.
What you ought to do is follow for now. How the people say, make a miracle, keep up the lyrical. Black is back, all in, we're gonna win. Check it out.
Yeah, yo, come on.
Here we go again.
Black is back, all in, we're gonna win. When he says black is back, he's saying racial pride among black people is back. Positive self-identity is back. Black self-determination is back. This is what we talked about in our rap music back in the 1980s. That's 1987. Black is back. All in, we're going to win. So he's saying everybody get involved. You know, we talking, and this is our music. We talked about black unity. We talked about doing for self. And there are plenty of examples of this. I'm going to continue to go down the line. Oh, no, here we go. Now I want to say something else too. They use the voice of Malcolm X on Bring the Noise. That, however, was not the first time that the voice of Malcolm X was used on a rap record, hip hop record. This record here is no rapping in it per se, but it's still a very rap inspired record. This was Keith LeBlanc, and the record was called No Sellout. And this was the first time the voice of Malcolm X was used on a record. This is still hip hop. Listen.
Malcolm X.
No sellout.
Malcolm X.
No sellout.
White, black, brown, red, yellow. Doesn't make any difference what color you are. The only thing power respects is power.
Yeah. The only thing power respects is power. That was Keith LeBlanc. That was 1984. And that was the first time the voice of Malcolm X was used on a record. 1987, Public Enemy does Bring the Noise. And they use the voice of Malcolm X saying, too black, too strong. So now we going into the year 1988. In 1988, we had a group out of Brooklyn called the Jungle Brothers. And the Jungle Brothers actually met at Murray Bertram High School in Manhattan. Just so happens that Q-Tip, who was from Queens, also attended Murray Bertram High School in Manhattan when the Jungle Brothers were there, which is how they met. Incidentally, Brother Jay from the X Clan also attended Murray Bertram High School in Manhattan. He was there the same time the Jungle Brothers and Q-Tip was there. I think perhaps maybe someone needs to do a short documentary on the rappers that came out of Murray Bertram High School in Manhattan. Jungle Brothers were high on that list. So now it's 1988. Public Enemy successfully sparks the black consciousness and hip hop movement of the late 1980s, beginning in 1987. So now you have the Jungle Brothers indie rap group, met at Murray Bertram High School. They got a lot of radio play on the radio on the weekend here in New York because Mike G from the Jungle Brothers, his uncle is actually Red Alert, who was iconic. He's still an iconic DJ here in the New York City area. And so the Jungle Brothers got a lot of support on the radio, due in part to the fact that Red Alert was related to one of the members of the group. This is a record off of the album called Straight Out the Jungle. The album's called Straight Out the Jungle. The record's called What's Going On. This is what we were talking about in our rap in 1988. Listen.
Now history was not my favorite subject. I used to flip through the pages and get upset, seeing a little of black and too much of the other.
They tried to brainwash you.
Picture that, a Jungle Brother, read this, read that, answer question 3. But when I got to 3, it had nothing to do with me. Something was wrong and I knew it all along. Now tell me, please, what's going on?
Now, hopefully I shared my screen properly. Yes, I did. So they're talking now about miseducation in the public school. And I think this is interesting because, again, these are some of the themes that we talked about in our music. Chike Akua, who is an African-centered educator in the Georgia area, the state of Georgia, he speaks to this subject very eloquently as an educator. He said Black children have unique learning styles, and Black children are visual learners. We talking about miseducation in public school now. It says Black children are not dark-skinned Europeans. We have unique culture, unique learning styles, unique experiences, and unique ways of engaging. Now, I thought this is important. This is why I'm saying this. Black children are relational before they are analytical, meaning Black children want to know how the lesson relates to them. Then they become analytical about the message. Jungle Brothers touched on that in that record, What's Going On, way back in 1988. So now we're starting to see that there's something wrong with the miseducation in the public school system. And so Mike G from Jungle Brothers speaks to that on that record. Now, Jungle Brothers, I don't know if people consider them to be a conscious rap group or not. I would say they are because of some of the themes that they talked about. They had another record called Black is Black, which featured a teenage Q-Tip for the first time. It's the first verse we ever heard from Q-Tip on a record. It was this song right here called Black is Back. Of course, Q-Tip goes on to be a huge artist in his own right. Q-Tip and the Tribe Called Quest is now in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And Q-Tip's whole career began with this record right here.
Judged by both my race and color, don't you know we need each other? I need you and you need me, and if not now, you soon will see. My light complexion has no meaning. If you think so, you're still dreaming. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. There's no time for us to break up. Black is black, not blue or purple. Being black is like a circle. Round and round we all will go. Where we end up, I don't know. Listen to me, if you will, your fantasy will get you killed.
Okay, so now interesting. They're talking there about colorism among Black people in the Black community. These were the themes that we were listening to in our music back in 1988. And so now this is the Jungle Brothers. They do Straight Out the Jungle. They had What's Going On. They had Black is Back, which featured Q-Tip for the first time. They have a lot of socially relevant themes in their music. So now you see that Black consciousness is becoming popular again in rap music. And groups like the Jungle Brothers, perfect example of that. Now, I feel like if I didn't highlight this history would go to the wayside and people will completely forget about it. So I'm doing my best to try to keep the history in perspective and keep everything in context. Now, in 1988, you also get, coming out of New Jersey, a producer DJ called DJ Mark the 45 King. It's another producer whose artists that he worked with and produced got a lot of support on mix shows on the weekend from Cool DJ Red Alert, who was one of those mix shows that we listened to on the radio on the weekend here in New York. Red Alert helped to break a lot of artists. And Red Alert helped to put a lot of people on the map and basically jumpstart a lot of careers. This is Lakim Shabazz coming out of New Jersey with a record called Black is Back. Now, again, remember, a year previous, Public Enemy said Black is Back on Bring the Noise. Now, Lakim Shabazz is doing a song titled Black is Back.
Black is back. Black is back. Black is back. Black is back. Well, I'm black, the dominant shade. I'm an upgrade.
I'm black, the dominant shade. I'm an upgrade. If you understand the teachings of Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, she always talks about how black are genetic dominant. Listen.
Now hit my resistance, so listen as I get paid. See, just rips the cut with the dope. No can of 45 can't sample the dope noise show. No, I know the ledge over the edge. I won't fall. This rhyme was designed for the final call. We got to struggle and fight against a part-time. Who are these people telling us we'll live and die? I'm sorry to say, but one day we are gonna die. I don't know about you, but I'm here and I'm gonna try to make the black man understand that we can get the program back in our hands. It's for mobile land. You see, it's gonna be hard, but I'm God. I got the proof, the truth.
Okay, show the image of Stephen Biko, South African apartheid activist. And if you blink, you missed it. They also showed an image of Assata Shakur, who Public Enemy references on Rebel Without a Pause. Loud and proud supporter of Chestermark. He flashes an image of Assata Shakur.
And now it's time to get loose, spread my wisdom, educate the people. Forget these divine evils, just leave them.
Forget these divine evils. Shout out to the 5% Nation of God's and Earth.
LOL, pick up your telephone, dial some positive brothers so they can join it. And come along, peace, unleash the bar, Minister Farrakhan, for preaching and teaching the truth to the deaf and blind.
Now, he references Minister Farrakhan again. You have to understand something. Back then, when we were listening to rap music in the 80s, first of all, the Black consciousness and hip-hop movement in the 80s, the person that was like the figurehead of it all was Malcolm X. And Malcolm X had been going 25 years at that point. And so we sort of saw Malcolm X as our leader. Even though Malcolm X was no longer here, we listened to his lectures, we watched him on video, we read his books. Malcolm X was the sole individual that helped to spark the Black consciousness and hip-hop movement of the late 1980s. So now Malcolm X is gone. And in the late 80s, a lot of us listened to Minister Farrakhan. Because Minister Farrakhan in our mind was the closest thing we could get to Malcolm X. So we went with Minister Farrakhan because he was popular. So again, you see them referencing Minister Farrakhan in was it Bring the Noise? It was Bring the Noise. And Lakim Shabazz mentions Minister Farrakhan on Black is Back. One of my favorite records ever, man. That production is crazy. Salute to 45 King. He's now an ancestor. Dope record, man. But yeah, so you got acts like Lakim Shabazz coming out of New Jersey. And some of these records are independent releases. Some of them may have had major distribution. But nonetheless, this is what we were listening to back in the 80s. And for those of you that are just joining us, we're doing the History of Conscious Rap Part 3. Part 1 and 2 is still available to view here on the DJ Tiger channel. You can also go to offthecorner.net to view Part 1, offthecorner.net. And I'm going to post History of Conscious Rap Part 2 on offthecorner.net soon. Now, it is no secret that in the 1980s, because Lakim Shabazz Black is Back is 1988. We're still in 1988. In the 1980s, the crack epidemic was burning through Black communities like wildfire. Now, I think this is interesting. And I want everybody watching this to look this up. Search a journalist named Gary Webb. Gary Webb was an investigative journalist, and he wrote a 3-part series in the San Jose Mercury News in 1996. He's basically exposing the fact that the CIA, which is an international organization, the CIA, yes, search the name Gary Webb, the CIA under Ronald Reagan was deliberately bringing cocaine into the country from Nicaragua. That cocaine eventually became crack that was deliberately put in the black neighborhoods. Now, Gary Webb wrote a book after he did his article, and he put out his 3-part investigative, journalism in the San Jose Mercury News. He put his findings out in a book called Dark Alliance. Dark Alliance book came out in 1998. Subsequent to the release of that book, Gary Webb was found dead. 2 gunshot wounds to the head. They said he killed himself. I'm gonna let you, figure that one out. Either way, crack was an issue in the black community. We didn't know what we know now, that Gary Webb exposed all of this in his expose. We know now how crack got into the black neighborhoods. Now, I want everybody also to think about this. Cocaine back in the 1970s was something that only people with money used. And so you had a lot of white people in Hollywood that used cocaine. Yeah, like white people in the music industry that used cocaine. So cocaine was not something that black people had. So what the mainstream media wants you to think is that Raheem and Junebug, and I'm just putting ambiguous names out there, just stay with me. Raheem and Junebug in the hood were just sitting around on the couch one day with some extra surplus cocaine just sitting around, and decided one day to get up and see what would happen if they cooked this cocaine, and they invented crack. Now, this is the narrative that the mainstream media wants you to accept and believe. Cooking cocaine so that it becomes more powerful and has more of an impact on your brain, that's a chemist in a lab doing that. And Gary Webb exposed that. Either way, in the 1980s, this is 1988, we had a lot of rap records that were anti-crack. Now, again, this is interesting. We have now rappers promoting the use of doing drugs. Back in the 80s, we were saying, no, don't do the drugs. The drugs are bad. Don't do crack. Don't do drugs. Now they're talking about all kind of synthetic drugs and all kind of GMO drugs. I don't even know what they're doing now, but this is the Masters of Ceremony. Cracked Out 1988. Anti-crack record. Listen.
Hey, yo, T. Yeah, B. It sounds nutty to me.
Well, how nutty?
So nutty, people going plumb crazy.
Come on, the Maxwell. You think it's like that?
Bustin' Polly was the cracker. She said she wants some crack. Get to hear what little sis said.
What?
Crack is the word. I looked and shook my head and said, you mess with crack, it better be while I'm dead. Cause if I ever catch you, I'll punch you in your head.
Did you hear what little sis said? Crack is the word. I looked and shook my head and said, you mess with crack, you better be while I'm dead. Because if I ever catch you, I'll punch you in the head. Listen.
Oh, friends do it. I saw your friends are broke. I kicked the plain and simple. The coke is smoking no joke.
Yo, sissy, kid you not.
Believe me, sweetheart.
Well, look, don't you ever try it.
Cause it'll rip you right apart.
Don't you ever try it, because it'll rip you right apart. Listen.
Cause all I hear is, and crack is all they do. I hate to be the one who say that someone that I knew.
Well, I got a homie. He does it all night. I tell him, get your big lips off of that pipe.
Now, this is 1988, Masters of Ceremony. There's no mumble rap. There's nothing promoting and glorifying drug use like they do now. Deplorable. In the records now, it sounds like they're high while they record. I don't know what they're saying. But in 1988, we were saying, no, don't do the drugs. Don't do crack. Don't do whatever's popular in the street because you're going to destroy your life. Now, Black consciousness, and forgive me for not being able to read a lot of the comments in the chat because I'm doing this live. Black consciousness was, again, in the late 1980s, a way to make a hit record. So there was artists that had records out already that were not necessarily conscious rappers, but they were still doing conscious rap because they knew that that was a way to get your music heard and get known and be heard as an artist. Now, this is the Diss Masters, who are not a conscious rap group, but they still did a record called Black and Proud. This is 1989 now. So we did Lakim Shabazz, Black is Back, 88. Master Ceremony, Cracked Out, 88. And that Cracked Out record was one of many anti-crack records in rap. So now we're in 1989. And we got the Diss Masters, who do a record called Black and Proud.
And to my people, I bring this message here. Open your eyes and ears and listen to this knowledge I give, because I'm teaching you how to live.
As a black diss master,
I knew this day would come, so learn from this lyric and pass it on. You might not like what I say,
but you're my people. I love you. I'm saying this anyway.
how long can we let this go on? Blacks against blacks, treating one another wrong. You better wake up, cause like it or not, we are the only family we got.
Promoting the concept of black unity. Listen.
No sister, denying this is profound. I ain't lying a pound. So everybody in the place to be, sing along with me.
Okay, so now they are promoting black unity, saying that black against black doesn't make any sense, and it doesn't. So this is what we listened to in the 1980s. Rap music wasn't always this negative. It wasn't always a negative. So we got Diss Masters doing Black and Proud. And the Diss Masters were not even, they did a record before this called Small Time Hustler. And it was somewhat of a hit on the underground. But now Public Enemy is gaining steam. Lakim Shabazz is out crushing the game with ill records. Jungle Brothers are dropping hot joints. And everybody's putting some black consciousness in their music. And so now that brings us up to, now Diss Masters is 1989. In 1988, before the year ends, there's a concert that occurred here in New York at the Nassau Coliseum called the Jam 88. It featured Eric B. and Rakim, Kool Mo D, Dougie Fresh. I was there. I was at that event. Now, this turns out to be a turning point also in rap, only because while we were there at the concert at the Nassau Coliseum, someone was robbed at knife point and stabbed, and eventually was overwhelmed by that injury and lost his life from going to a rap concert. His name is Julio Fuentes. Like, we know of the incident, but we never say that name. I did some research. I had to go and research it so I could find that name. Julio Fuentes, 19 years old, from the Bronx, stabbed and killed at a rap concert over a gold chain. Now, the media comes out and says, hey, rap music is this bad thing and it causes violence. Now, if you're paying attention for the last 47 minutes, you will see that rap was not negative or something that will help to perpetuate violence. Now, can rap do that? Sure it does. It can now. It's doing it now. Back then, as you could see, our rap was more positive, right? We didn't have those kind of negative messages in the rap. So, because rap was getting such a bad name, you had a lot of rappers come together under KRS-One, pull a lot of people together. BDP, Stetsasonic, Kool Mo D, MC Lyte, Dougie Fresh, Just Ice, Heavy D, Chuck D. I'm blanking if there was anybody else on that record, but this record was done in direct response to that incident that happened at the Nassau Coliseum. Now, when we were there, Kool Mo D was on stage performing when this incident happened. And so the word starts to swirl around the building that someone got stabbed and robbed. 30 minutes later, word starts to swirl around the building that the person that got stabbed and robbed, he didn't make it. So now we're at the concert. We're trying to enjoy the moment, and all this other stuff is going on. This is Kool Mo D's response to that.
The black on black crime was way before us.
Chopper broke life with a knife as his wife cried because he died of trifling death when he left his very last breath. Was I slept, so watch your step. Back in the 60s, our brothers and sisters were hanged. How could you gangbang? I never ever ran from the Ku Klux Klan, and I shouldn't have to run from a black man, because that's self-destruction.
Okay, so now this is Kool Mo D's response to what happened in that incident where brother Julio Fuentes was killed for a gold chain. And this sparked this whole Stop the Violence movement. Again, this is our music back in the late 1980s now. And I can remember in high school, I stayed up on my hip hop. I was up on everything early. So I'm like maybe 2 weeks ahead of everybody. In some instances, I was months ahead of everybody because I always had the new music first and early, even before it came out. I can recall telling my friends, listen, have you heard Self-Destruction? And they said, well, what's that? I said, it's a rap record, guy, like everybody on it. Heavy D, MC Lyte, Just Ice, Public Enemy, Kool Mo D, everybody's on the record. They thought I was making this up. They said, how's the song go? I said, it says self-destruction. We're headed for self-destruction. They said, oh, man, you making that up. That sounds stupid. 2 weeks later, everybody comes running up to me like, yo, we heard the record. You were right. So that was my own personal story about that record, self-destruction. So this is to try to bring an end to some of the violence that was going on in around rap music at the time. Because rap music itself wasn't a negative. It was just negative people bringing that negative element. Now, we're in 1989. What happened in 1989? 1989, Spike Lee puts out a movie called Do the Right Thing. And Do the Right Thing featured a monumental song from Public Enemy, a record called Fight the Power. Now, Fight the Power, see, Chuck D is very creative. Fight the Power was actually a title of an Isley Brothers record that came out in 1975. So Chuck D took and said, okay, well, I'm going to rehash that title and do my own version of Fight the Power. And they did that in that movie. And I feel like this right here was the point at which the system said, oh, hell no, we cannot allow this to continue. Because this video was filmed in Bed-Stuy. You look like thousands of people in the video. They're holding red, black, and green flags. They're holding photos of Malcolm X. They're holding up photos of Marcus Garvey. It's showing black unity. I'm sure this shook the system. And so as a result now, and I'm not blaming Fight the Power, it's a great record. But as a result of records like this, the system of structural racism, which is based on the myth of white supremacy, has successfully weaponized our music against us. So this is Public Enemy, Fight the Power in 1980. Proud. Already I'm hyped because I'm amped. We all familiar with that monumental record, game changer. In fact, that was the song that Radio Raheem would play on his radio. Every shot you see Radio Raheem with his radio in that movie, Do the Right Thing, was playing Public Enemy, Fight the Power. Now, the movie is called Do the Right Thing. There was another record that was supposed to be on the soundtrack to that movie. In fact, this was supposed to be the record that Radio Raheem was playing on the radio. Every shot you see Radio Raheem with the radio. Now, Spike Lee decided against this song in that movie, in those scenes, because it didn't convey the strength and the power of Fight the Power. But still a really good record, and it shows you how we put certain kind of messages in our music. This is Redhead Kingpin. This is from 1989. Do the Right Thing.
Brothers are stealing and dealing and big wheeling, and to a younger mind that stuff is appealing. So what do? They got
the brothers are stealing and so forth. He says, to a young mind, that stuff is appealing. Listen.
the upper crew go out and steal a rob instead of getting the job. Now your mother tried to bring you up better than that. The same way she
Your mother tried to bring you up better than that.
loved you love the right back. But now you think you're grown and you argue a lot over money and got from dealing stuff in the block. Now you're not the only one in the world that has problems. Keep your head straight and you can surely solve them. Be a fly guy and reach sky high, and like the Jeffersons, you get a piece of the pie. I hope you take heed to the message I brought. In other words, the lesson I taught. The red I kick a lyric, but I won't sing. And the FBI crew wants you, and you will need to do the right thing.
Okay, that's Redhead Kingpin, Do the Right Thing. That hook you hear that singing, that's Big Bub from a group called Today out of New Jersey. And Big Bub also sang background on Bobby Brown, My Prerogative. Go back and listen to that. Shout out to Big Bub. Shout out to New Jersey. Shout out to Redhead Kingpin. But as you could see, Redhead Kingpin is putting certain messages in his music. I don't know if that appeared on the soundtrack to Do the Right Thing or not. But yeah, our music was not this negative that we see it now. So we're going now. That was 1989. That was game changing. That was game changing. I wish I could sit here and read some of these comments if I can make some time to do that. So got someone in the chat saying that Big Bub and Redhead Kingpin were from Inglewood, New Jersey. That's a suburb in New Jersey. For the people that are not in the New York, New Jersey area, Inglewood, New Jersey is a suburb of New Jersey. And we're talking about the history of rap music. Sugar Hill Records office was in Inglewood, New Jersey. So that's just an aside. And yes, New Jack Swing, Big Bub was part of that New Jack Swing because Big Bub was being produced by Teddy Riley at that time. So yeah, I'm seeing a lot of people in the chat that are informed. I say Big Bub, they know who I'm talking about. So salute to those people in the chat that know what's happening. So now we're up to 1990. Here we go. And I might go over time a little bit. Let me know in the chat if it's okay for me to go over time. Everybody's watching this and people making comments in the chat. But anyway, 1990 rolls around. We have a movie called Strictly Business, which was a breakout moment for Halle Berry. This was her first, leading role in a movie. This is what put her on the map. Strictly Business also comes with a soundtrack that was the jumpstart of Mary J. Blige's career. This is 1990. There is a record on there by an artist called Laquan called Now Is the B Turn. So we started today in 1987 with Public Enemy, Rebel Without a Pause. We went from 87 to 88, from 88 to 89. Now we're in 90. The consciousness and hip hop movement in rap, it lasted about a good 5 years. So from like 1987 to 1992. 1992, you see it beginning to start to taper off. But now we're in 1990, and it's still going pretty strong. Messages in the music was still the in thing to do. This is Laquan, Now's the B Turn.
Third eye shines like the force of light. Tongue uses a tool to provide a godly light. Most are lost and blinded by vanity. Africa is home and the birth of humanity.
Africa is home and the birth of humanity. This is the sort of things we talked about.
How would a nation grow without its roots? For the land is the tree, and we're the fruit. Awareness.
How would a nation grow without its roots? That's for the FBA, ADOS, and all these people that are trying to say black people are not African. Listen, my favorite joints. That was from the Strictly Business soundtrack. We're at 19. To this day, this is still one of the most profound artists in hip hop. Not just in his music, but he does lectures. He's written books. He's dropped a lot of jewels in any number of interviews. This is the Poor Righteous Teachers out of New Jersey. This is 1990. This is their first record, Rock This Funky Joint. Okay, so excuse that because I did not share my screen properly. Just stay with me. This is Poor Righteous Teachers. Make sure I'm doing this right. Out of New Jersey. Shout out to DJ Tiger. He's a lot more swift with this sort of thing. Poor Righteous Teachers. Okay, that was Poor Righteous Teachers out of New Jersey. I believe they were from Trenton. Somebody in the chat, rescue me if I'm wrong. I know we had somebody said that Big Bub and Redhead Kingpin were out of New Jersey. Was Poor Righteous Teachers from Trenton or were they from Newark? I believe it was Trenton. Forgive me for not knowing that, but that was Poor Righteous Teachers. They became, one of the faces of conscious rap, which began with Public Enemy. And so also on the heels of Poor Righteous Teachers. And the 5% Nation of God's and Earth movement was huge back then. In the 80s, it was what's today's mathematics. If you didn't know, hold on, I got someone telling me the answer here. Ganju Roach, it says yes, Trenton, New Jersey. Kenny Max said Lakim Shabazz was him. And Antoine Echo says yes, Trenton, New Jersey. So thank you for that, because I thought that was accurate, but I didn't want to put out any disinformation. Either way, we have now Public Enemy coming out of Long Island. You have Poor Righteous Teachers coming out of New Jersey. Now you have coming out of New Rochelle, Brand Nubian. And man, Brand Nubian had an exceptional impact on consciousness in rap music. So now Brand Nubian featured Grand Puba, who was on the Cracked Out record that I played from back in 1988, where they were talking about not using crack, as opposed to now where they glorify the use and abuse of drugs. You had Brand Nubian, who were also involved with the 5% Nation of Gods and Earth. And the first album was called One for All. Classic. That's one of the best albums in the history of recorded rap music. And when we talk about that in conversations, One for All by Brand Nubian never comes up. But that was easily one of the better albums in the history of recorded rap music. So now this is a joint called Wake Up. This was off of that first album. This was 1990, Brand New. Drug controlled substance contained in a vial set up by the devil as he looks and he smiles. We talked about the research of Gary Webb and how crack was deliberately introduced into the black community. We're touching on that now in the rap music. Unity, unification to help our bad situation. You see now why the music or the lyrics in the rap music now is so terrible, because it was conveying these kind of positive messages. And the system of structural racism, which is based on the myth of white supremacy, doesn't want us to think this way. In order for systemic white supremacy to work, black people have to be ignorant. Listen, this was filmed in front of the Allah School in Mecca in Harlem, New York City, which is headquarters for the 5% Nation of Gods and Nerves. And I need to do a piece or an hour just on Grand Poobah. If you want to see me do that in the chat, just give me some response. You want me to see me do something on Grand Poobah, who was easily one of the most versatile artists in the history of recorded rap? Put that in the chat and let me know. Now, I'm going to play this as the last, this image of sort of like this black militancy and black self-determination and so forth. And so this is beginning to spread. So we got now Paris coming out of the West Coast, and he's coming with that same kind of militant, original Black Panther kind of vibe.
P-Dog with a gift from heaven. Tempo 116.7 keeps you locked in time with the program. When I get wild, I'll pile on dope jams, then spit on your flag and government. Cause help the black was a concept never meant. Nigga,
help the black was a concept never meant. Listen.
Please, food stamps and free cheese can't be the cure for a sick disease. Just the way the devil had planned it. Raped and pillage everyone on the planet and give them fake gods at odds with all law. Love thy enemy and all that hoopla. Here close the words I wrote. Crack cocaine is genocide of black folk.
Crack cocaine is genocide on black folks. This is rap in 1990. Listen.
Who in their right mind ever could have missed this? Damn right, when you think seditious and I move swiftly, you can't get with me. The 666 move quick but miss me. When I came off involved in conscious, so don't ask why next time I start this.
Okay, that was Paris coming out of the West Coast. Now, my time for today is up, so I have to go ahead and get off of here. I do want to thank everybody that joined me in the chat. This is Sports and Real Talk. Grand Poobah is a hip-hop legend. Yes, a video for him would be great. Okay. So Def Rocker says the cool. I did not mention the cool. Yes, perhaps maybe I'll come to the cool in part 4, because I'm going to do a part 4. And I did not come to the cool yet. I don't think I'm up to that yet, because I didn't even mention Arrested Development, which comes along in 1992. I didn't mention Gang Starr, who began in 1988, 89, somewhere thereabout. And then by the time they do Daily Operation, they have an image of Malcolm X in the background, right on the album cover. And so, Professor Griff as well. Antoine Austin, thank you for mentioning that. I need to mention Professor Griff and what happened to him, as well as play some of his music, because he was an artist on his own. It says, dropping gems of knowledge, kings, Twizzler Roots. Hopefully I'm saying that right. I want to thank everybody that was in the chat that got in. It was definitely a good look today in the chat. I wish I could read all of this as I was going, but I'm kind of doing everything like, on the spot here. Shout out to DJ Tiger, man, for making all of this even possible. So I would say to everybody, I want to thank everybody that got in on the chat. Hopefully you enjoyed today's lesson. Yes. Kenneth Joyce mentioned X-Clan and YZ. Didn't even get to X-Clan, which was around 1989, somewhere thereabout. So I'm glad Kenneth Joyce mentioned that, because I do need to get into X-Clan and their music. I did do an interview with Paradise Gray years ago talking about X-Clan and their music. So I definitely need to come to X-Clan. Twizzler Roos mentions Intelligent Hoodlum, who's also known as Tragedy Gaddafi out of Queensbridge. Didn't get to him either. There's a lot to cover. So I'm glad a lot of people in the chat are saying some things, giving me more ideas and things to look into. YZ out of New Jersey was another one of those artists that was leading the way as it relates to consciousness and rap music. But just in the chat, like I said, if you got any ideas, if you want to put any more names out there, because people are reminding me that I did not mention Kenneth Joyce. Remind me I did not mention X-Clan or YZ. Did not mention Intelligent Hoodlum, Tragedy Gaddafi. I did not mention Arrested Development. I missed a few things, but you know it's going to be hard to get everything in one lesson. So Ganju Roach says Tony D, who did the production for Poor Righteous Teachers. So big up to him. Poor Righteous Teachers. Yeah. DJ Tiger says Paris. I need to do more on him. Oh, Sister Soldier. Yes. Who that first Sister Soldier album is the one and only Sister Soldier album. Dope album. In fact, I ran out of time today. I wanted to get to Public Enemy, Terminator X Buck Wildin', which was the beginning of Sister Soldier on record. But I'm going to do a part 4. So I want everybody stay tuned for that, because Sister Soldier is definitely going to get a nod. X-Clan YZ is definitely going to get a nod. Arrested Development is definitely going to get a nod. I got to mention Professor Griffin, his solo albums. I got to mention X-Clan. So all of that is coming, everybody. I just want everyone to stay tuned. Well, thank everybody again for tuning in. Shout out and salute to DJ Tiger as usual. And check us out next month. Oh, King Sun. Yes, Def Rocker mentioned King Sun. I didn't even get to King Sun out of the Bronx. Salute to King Sun. So I got a lot more to cover in the history of conscious rap music. Again, if you have any ideas, continue to post that in the chat. And I will definitely get to all of the names that was mentioned in the chat today. I'm definitely going to get to all of those and come back with part 4. And then I'll see if I'll have some guests on part 4. We're going to try to have a panel again on part 4 like we did on part 2. So Antoine Austin said amazing live. Salute. Twizzler Roots is bigging me up. King Sun was also from Paterson, New Jersey, the Bronx. That's true. I got a lot of informed people in the chat. This is a very, very informed chat here. I like this. People definitely check us out next week. Part 4 will not be next week. I don't know when it will be, but I will make that announcement. Either way, I would encourage everyone to share and like the DJ Tiger channel. Share and like his videos. Share and like this video. And if you want to see part 1, you can do so by going to offthecorner.net. That website again is offthecorner.net. I want to say peace and power to everybody that joined us, and check us out again next time. Peace.